Hey, you guys came back. I'm so
I
surprised.
didn't go anywhere.
Oh well,
I
we
never
were looking.
left.
We've been searching all weekend. I want to start out today by saying first that that gift that you saw at the beginning with the Earth, it did turn out the way that I wanted, and I'm going to continue to work on it. But I wanted a gift that was just a smooth transition of the Earth from the regular Earth to the flat Earth, and instead I got an Earth that was having a stroke. So it's so like jerky.
He was having a seizure.
Well, that probably sounds like that's going to be the next conspiracy, Steve. Stroke Earth.
Well, actually,
Just
it's
like a
funny. The first
competitor.
thing somebody commented when we went live was jerky Earth or jiggly Earth. That's the first thing they said was
Stroke
jiggly.
Earth sounds like a competitor for Chatterbait, though. Okay.
That could be a whole different channel.
Think about it. You'll get it later.
Hmm.
How was your day today?
Mine was great, but I heard yours was kind of interesting. I heard you almost died today.
Mine was awful. I did almost die today.
What happened?
Not like literally died, almost like YouTube died, where I couldn't come on camera for a while. I'm soundproofing in here. I'm trying to get things to where it sounds really like Seth Andrews sexy. I'm trying to get that level of sexy voice, and so I got some soundproofing squares, and I was super gluing them up on this side and up on this side. And about an hour later, I'm just running my fingers through my hair, and it ran across a big lump. I mean, just a locked lump of hair. And I had apparently brushed my hair through the super glue as I was getting up and didn't notice it. So, yeah, so I'm freaking out. And I went to Twitter and I was like, how do I get this out? And there was all kind of explanations. But this has a deeper ramifications, I think, because I called my grandmother. You know what she told me to do?
Well, I would use acetone. I don't know what your grandma said.
That's what everybody said. But my grandma told me to use peanut butter.
Yeah, that definitely works.
It did. It took it right out.
I thought you should know how to get sticky stuff out of your hair by now, Kyle.
Low hanging fruit there.
Steve, no.
That would be. See, I wouldn't be freaking out at that though. That would be a normal Saturday for me. But so the peanut butter worked, and I have to say that who in the Surus and Godless Iowan debate, which one of them was for Skippy peanut butter?
Surus versus Skippy, and Iowan was for Peter Pan. And by the way, don't listen to allegedly Dave. He said pee on your head to get rid. Don't do that.
No, do not pee on your head.
Yeah.
But it was Peter Pan that saved the day. So sorry, Skippy. Peter, my vote is for whoever is for the Peter Pan. I just want to put that out there that it kind of hit me all at once. I was like, maybe there is a God, because this is a sign. Obviously, I'm supposed to interject into this peanut butter debate that they have going on, and to show them that it is Peter Pan, not the second the second cousin twice removed of peanut butter, Skippy. Sorry. Okay, so let's welcome to the episode 1 of FLATURDAY Night Fight. We're going to start doing these on Saturdays now. So if you guys are out there, no matter which side of the coin you're on, if you're somebody that wants to debunk Flat Earth, or you're a proponent of the Flat Earth movement, then you can email us at live@nonsexshow.com or get us on Discord, Twitter, and we will line you up. We'll probably from this point forward maybe do, depending on the response, maybe do 2 a night, depending on who it is and what their level of experience is with this sort of thing. So if you want to jump in, email us or contact us, and we'll make that happen. Steve and I are going to be in the live chat tonight, chatting with you guys and hanging out and getting questions, all that stuff. Welcome Godless Engineer back for his 81st appearance on the show, the big 8-1. By the way, did you decide to go into the haunted house?
Oh, no, I am definitely not doing the torture house.
Damn it. But anyway, welcome back, sir. And I'm on this time. Go ahead, John.
I was just going to say thank you for having me. Thank you for letting me be a moderator tonight. And I can't wait to get into the debate.
Well, unless Steve has anything, then Steve, you got anything else for it?
Rock on. Let's do it. Get on to it.
All right, G. You're in the driver's seat.
Okay. Well, welcome everybody, especially our two debaters tonight. On the one side, we have Fight the Flat Earth. He's a newish YouTuber who has a passion against fighting stupidity. And then on our other side, we have, I'm guessing we're going with the Mind of God as your name or title or whatnot. And just to give you guys a little bit of idea about who Mind of God is, he has the Governor General's Medal for the highest GPA in high school. He's got the Harry Cross Gold Medal for the highest GPA in his undergrad electrical engineering program. His GRE math section score was a 790 of 800. He has a master's in electrical engineering from Rice University, and he has a master of accounting from NSU. He's also a licensed CPA in the state of Arizona. So he's got a lot of creds behind him. And yeah, this ought to be interesting. So welcome, guys. We didn't really decide who should go first, but do either of you guys have a preference?
Mind of God is welcome to go first.
Okay, yeah, Mind of God, you want to go?
Thanks a lot,
I'm
guys.
just doing some last-minute flat Earth research.
I'm just going to do a quick bio. If the is the producer able to go through my slides to give a visual?
Yes.
Okay. So if you can, yeah, thank you. If you can just put the title for now, title slide. Thank you. So I just want to, if you can go to the, yeah, we'll go to this first one. So the academic one. So just to sort of reiterate, you know, some of my background, the only real reason I feel like I wanted to share this was largely just because it'll help you kind of understand the way I think, the way I sort of have approached this debate. You know, also, I noticed just a little bit from interacting with people on my channel, you know, I'll sometimes get like go back and do a high school level natural science course or something, which I just don't want that here unless it's absolutely necessary for the debate for someone to recommend that for me. I just think that that's, in my opinion, that's kind of off the table with the amount of schooling that I have. So I am a licensed CPA. I currently work in accounting and finance, but engineering is obviously like very near and dear to me and is a big part of my life, you know, even outside of flat earth. And I work for a directional drilling company. And, you know, it's interesting because like they also do measurements that they call gravity, you know, so I've actually, you know, seen some sort of practical uses, at least of the term. So, you know, I think this debate definitely is very relevant on a day-to-day level as well. I am not a licensed engineer. That's a little bit of a shot to George. That's a kind of an inside joke, but you know, I don't work in engineering currently. I do consider myself a little bit of like a slurp and burp expert. And what I mean by that is like, I feel like what I've been good at throughout my life is just, you know, learning concepts. Obviously that's required in school, and then pretty good at regurgitating them or any variation of that on tests. So, you know, I've definitely been around very, very smart people, and I have a feeling there's quite a few listening, and you know that will come through this debate. But you know, I do think that, you know, I still, with that being said, I have a strong foundation in math and science. I consider myself more of an intuitive person. You know, I like understanding complex things and then breaking them down to their components, and you know, I'll try and attempt to do that here. So if we go to the next slide, thank you. So plantations, I affectionately call them that. If you know my channel, you'll probably get a feel for my view on the world. But needless to say, like I've worked for Schlumberger. I also, as a seismic engineer, which you know, if the topic comes up, you know, there's definitely relevance to that field in terms of curvature of the Earth, and we can discuss that. So I'm familiar and, you know, understand some of the mathematical underpinnings of things like deconvolution, noise filtering, demultiple migrations. And I've also worked as a software engineer, mostly C++, actually coding these migration algorithms. And, you know, if anyone is interested, I can explain what that is. Then I moved on, very random kind of change, but to become an accountant. And then I've worked for some of these companies as a senior analyst, and I work in that domain currently. If we can go to the next slide. So this is kind of, in many ways, the journey that brought me here to this very debate, and maybe this whole, you know, this whole discussion, this whole curiosity of like what the shape of the Earth is and who created it and all that. But very quick, you know, kind of trajectory, I guess, religious, spiritual trajectory. My family is actually a Hindu family. I grew up in a small town in Canada. I became a Christian during my undergrad in London, Ontario. Then I moved to Houston in 2004, and then got knee deep in the evangelical Christianity that is pervasive here. And then I actually went through quite a few years of actually becoming disinterested, disenchanted with the whole, you know, religion, and kind of just disappeared really, you know, from any aspect of practicing the faith. I actually was a little bit sort of anti-God, I would say, a little bit sort of anti-Christ slightly. Like I started writing books about how I found Christians annoying, and I actually wrote what might be considered kind of a blasphemous book describing Jesus Christ as a pickup artist, because I started getting into like Neil Strauss in the game and, you know, dating and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, anyway, I went through that phase, and then, you know, Russian vids was my savior. No, I'm just kidding. I started watching some of Russian vid stuff in 2015, and, you know, I definitely had a couple laughs, but also when I saw him on here, but, you know, I don't know him personally, but, you know, I'm definitely thankful for his work. And most importantly, I started really looking at, you know, obviously the encoding and the flat earth, but also the Bible as being predictive. And this is one minor theme of my dialogue here today. If we can go to the next one. So this will be the last slide for my intro piece before I hand it off to Craig. But, you know, just, and I'm not saying this to like earn points or anything, but this is me being completely honest. If people find it hard to believe that there's like some magic, you know, spirit or entity out there who created the earth, and that's why we're here, that is hard to believe. You know, I'll be totally honest with you. And that's, I think it has to be, you know, if an entity were able to do that. So I'll leave it at that before we get into some of the other stuff, but if that's okay.
Cool.
Awesome. Thank you, Mind of God. Now we have Fight the Flat Earth. Would you like to take a few minutes for kind of an intro?
Hi, my name's Craig. I got interested in the whole flat earth thing a while ago, basically because of my kids. You know, they're young people, they watch internet, you know, YouTube, they're influenced just like any other people. And I noticed the amount of charismatic people trying to push flat earth onto people, and now there's people trying to get it into schools and stuff. And you know, it makes me slightly angry, to be quite honest. I don't really want to talk about myself because that's not important. Suffice to say, I'm smart. I've got 2 degrees, one in nuclear engineering, energy systems and fusion technology, and one in physics. I don't think I've got as many accolades as my opponent, but I did just make a wee video that I'd like to show you guys. So if you want to play that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yes.
Fight the Flat Earth intends to do exactly as the name implies. This whole flat earth thing has gone on for too long. Come on, it's 2018. The mere fact that to even consider the flat earth you have to think, Every single picture or video from space is fake. Every government in the world is in on the deception. Every teacher, scientist, pilot, boat captain, astronaut or cosmonaut, not to mention the enormous naval fleet manned by several 100,000 people required to keep people from the edge in case they learn the truth, makes it stupid to even entertain the idea. My opponent tonight, who first I'd like to thank for being here to debate me, has a personal journey that he feels has brought him to this conclusion. Well, my personal journey involves being a nuclear engineer submariner in the Royal Navy. If the Earth was flat, then our navigation systems wouldn't work very well, and I probably wouldn't be here to debate you tonight. Flat Earthers often invoke Occam's razor, thinking that it supports their side, but what does Occam's razor actually say? That between two competing hypotheses, one should select the solution with the fewest assumptions. The amount of assumptions needed for a flat Earth are huge, including the assumption that magic is real. During this debate, I intend to show that all observations that can be made by anyone conform exactly to what we'd expect on the globe model, and that math and experiments back it up. Fortunately, other YouTubers have made this really easy for me, especially Miles Davis. You should go and subscribe to Miles Davis. I'm Craig, and I'm here to fight the flat Earth. Stupidity is not a right. So yeah, basically that's it.
Okay, so now what we are going to do. Sorry, I was muted. I had to get.
By the way, his music was Cataclysmic Molten Core or Extinction Level Event. It's one of those, and I use the same music. So good choice in music, by the way, for that.
It was just the free one available in my editor.
Right.
I think that it's a great intro song. But now I believe what we're going to be doing is going into more of a discussion style of debate where they're going to be going back and forth. I am going to be, moderating, making sure nobody talks over one another, calming things down if they get too heated. Otherwise, though, I'm pretty much going to let it go. I may step in a few times if somebody's not answering a question or anything like that, but for the most part, I'm going to try to be as unbiased as I can be and even-handed when doling out any kind of warnings or anything like that. So, since Mind of God went first on the introductions, would you want to go first on any questions or statements or anything like that you've got for Fight the Flat Earth?
Yeah, that sounds good. So basically the structure of what I have, it's 4 points. Again, just the way my mind works, I can't say I'm fully versed in all the different characters and players that are in the Flat Earth and the Ball Earth dialogue and debate. I do know a few for sure, but so I might ask if you do reference who you're speaking of. But I'm going to kind of come more from like a sort of theoretical vantage point, and it's not like I have a nail in the coffin kind of thing. I just will put in mind feedback, honestly, like what you think about what I'm sharing and its accuracy, or if there's answers, to be honest. So because I haven't maybe scoured the entire literature, but so I do want to address a point in the video though where Craig mentions, the extent of the deception, and trust me, that is a major stumbling block, and for good reason, because, the coordination would have to be literally out of this world, hence the name of my channel and why I'm here. But so I do want to talk about that. If you don't mind, if we can go back to my PowerPoint and just pick up where we left off. If we can go to the next slide. I want to talk about, I don't want to go too heavy on the Bible. I know that that's not the purpose of this discussion, but it is part of the narrative and the reason why I'm here. Because to be totally honest, if the Bible or any religious text doesn't predict or care about these kind of things, I mean, to me, it's not as important. I'm not saying it's irrelevant. Obviously, the technical merits and the discussion is like very worthwhile, in the very least, to know what you believe. That's very important, I think. But I do think that it's important to clear up some misconceptions about the Bible, just because again, like I said, I've been in evangelical Christianity, in its deepest levels, and I know a lot of the reasons why people annoyed by Christians or find them, annoying or simple. A lot of different, terms could be used to describe them. And I get that. First and foremost, I think the very important thing that we all need to recognize that is not taught is that the entire Bible, no one knows if the entire Bible is true because the end has not manifest yet. And even Jesus Christ himself says that he doesn't know the timing of the end time. So this was him in the physical world, the literature that we have, the words that he said through the Bible. But in the spirit world, if he exists, we don't know, if he's given this information. But at least what is written in the Bible, he does not know the timing of the end time. So he would actually not know technically if it's fulfilled, to its fullest. So I know a lot of Christians, and I've done this in the past. My past sins, have been very kind of cavalier, thinking that the entire Bible is true just because Jesus loves me or something like that. I will definitely not come from that angle. So two important verses I do want to talk about. Revelation 12:9 does speak of a deception taking place on a worldwide scale. To be fair to both sides, that could be, flat Earth could be the fulfillment of that. A deception that people would think that the Earth is flat, but it's not. Obviously, my angle on this show is that it's more, reflective of the ball Earth deception. And then another one that I call MOTB. I'm not trying to be vague, but it's called the Mark of the Beast, and I know that it's out there, and people. I think it's more and more mainstream. Even Zero Hedge is reported on it and stuff. So it's like it's out there, but I want to talk about a very important thing in that it does refer to all people, and so it does kind of couple tightly with Revelation 12:9 and a deception happening worldwide. So I just put that out there as sort of a foundation. Just tuck that, in the back of your mind for now. If we can go to the next one. Okay, so this is why I feel like, I'm not trying to, do a tightrope walk here, but I do think that I will do the best that I can to be fair to both sides. I honestly feel that, some of my positions do make me, not even necessarily an asset to flat earthers, because I feel that deception is just the foundation for something else. But I do feel, at least in this talk, I will bring up for what I feel are flaws, or in the very least raise questions about the ball Earth model, again, from my vantage point as an electrical engineer. And I do think I will at least be in a slight asset to the ball Earthers, because I am against that whole notion that you need Jesus as your personal savior. To me, that is not biblical the way it's typically expressed. And to me, this mark of the beast, or this whole deception that the Bible could potentially be narrating, to me is kind of a way to put the whole Bible on the table. And we could either, in our generation, dismiss it as just gibberish, or something to pay attention to. I don't think, honestly, I agree with a lot of people who say religions have caused so much, division, death, confusion in the world. I agree with that. I think that's obvious. And, if we can disprove the Bible, in the very least, it could get us on a more focused journey towards truth. If you can go to the next one. Yeah, so I also, in the same line, I do feel, and I'm aware of this, I try and be respectful. I feel bad because in the past, maybe I haven't been with this show, with rating your chat box, but I appreciate the invite on anyway. But I do feel like I'm a bit of a liability in the sense that the same God who proclaimed flat Earth, if you're a person in the Bible who believes that, and I would be, they also prophesied further deception, which I'll talk about briefly. But then the one thing that I do want ball earthers to at least consider is, and I'm going to use the mark of the beast as a sort of litmus test for, not necessarily that you just all of a sudden think that the whole Bible is true, but just to give you a moment to consider, if those things do happen, to consider, that it might be. And then that the God that did prophesy that might have also created a flat Earth. Yeah, so I'm going to go into the actual sort of, I guess, technical points now, if you don't mind going to the next. Let me know if I'm taking too much time or whatever, but I'll try and be, I don't know if you want me to go one point at a time. There's 4 of them. you know, I'm not saying they're like, you know, a mouthful or anything. Like I can go through them pretty quick, or I can do one and pass it back. So just tell me to
time,
stop.
I think would be better.
Okay, yeah, that sounds good. So a quick preamble. I think this is to be fair to both sides. I do think with the amount of energy, even with, you know, with Craig's initial, you know, video, you can sense that people are passionate about it. I think that that's great. I think that's good because it's going to get the solution faster. Whoever's right, you know, may the best men and women win. With modern day technology, ingenuity, I don't see this debate lasting much longer than like months, maybe a year or two, but definitely not like decades. And for the reasons that I've listed: apps, drones, HD cameras, good-willed people on both sides, people who have a religious zeal, people who you know, don't want you know, certain things, you know, like you know, for especially like the flat Earth Bible people, which are out there more and more. There is a sort of general non-religious fervor out there too, because obviously if the Earth were flat, that, you know, that would lead to some, you know, immediate spiritual implications, in my opinion. So if we can go to the next one. Okay, so this is a video, or sorry, like a snippet of a point that I made, and to me, you know, it's more of a thought experiment. I did not come with like images and videos. I know that there's a lot out there, and credit to the people who are putting in that energy. I honestly wish that was more of my disposition. I kind of think differently about this, but for me, I like to like look at you know, complex things and simplify them, break them down. So to me, the first flaw, which I call, is a carpenter's level's behavior on a curved surface. And again, I asked, you know, my the Craig, who I'm debating, to point out anything that's not accurate in my representation of the ball Earth model. But this is my understanding of it, and to me, I'll show that I think it's nonsensical. So if we can go to the next picture. So I'm not sure how clearly you guys can see this, but basically I have like a spherical Earth with a red ring and then a green sort of ellipse kind of shape. It's not, you know, a perfect sphere. And then I have a blue ball, which is concentric to the inner Earth. So the two blue things are meant to be, you know, they share a same origin, and then they have, you know, the same shape, but just one's exploded more radius. The other two are just kind of random shapes that I made. So this to me is just, again, a thought experiment, but something to get us thinking about the behavior of a carpenter level in this situation. So you can think of the red shape and the green shape as like hills or different, you know, deformities on the ball Earth, however you want to think about it. If we can go to the next slide, I'll talk about the implications of this. So what ball earthers would have to then believe is that if a carpenter's level would be essentially dragged across these surfaces, the inner blue Earth and the outer blue ball, the level would stay level. You know, it's not even necessarily dependent at all with the length of it. It's just if it is the tangent line and it is moving, you know, perfectly along the surface of those two surfaces, it would stay level, because that tangent line is perpendicular to the direction of gravity, which is facing towards the center of the Earth. However, the red and the green would react like any other, you know, surface that is, you know, not even or not concentric with the Earth, and, you know, it would move around as you traverse it. So to me, essentially what this is saying, if we can go to the next slide, I kind of sort of summarize this point that I'm uncomfortable with, obviously, is that if we have an Earth down at the bottom, that's obviously like a caricature. I just this is PowerPoint, so I just used a shape, but it also helps kind of, you know, illustrate what I'm trying to say, is that basically if you have the Earth and then you draw basically any arbitrary you know, shape above it, you know, it could be any number of shapes, there will be one that will allow the level to stay level. So the reason I think it's important to draw it like this is that it kind of lifts the curve up in the air so we can all see it. We don't have to necessarily assume that what's beneath us is curved. This sort of lets us kind of bring the curve up and illustrate it, more clearly, because ball earthers, they have to believe that there is curve between their feet, even if it's minuscule, that this is just the reality of living on a ball. And so if you took a level and you run it along the very, very top surface, it would react to the change in shape. However, the second one from the top, which would be concentric to earth curve, the level would stay perfectly flat on every single point. As long as it's touching that surface and it's moving along it, it would stay flat according to ball earth theory. And then the bottom two, again, are not concentric to earth curve. So they would, the carpenter level, spirit level would move around. It may stay flat for a moment, but it would not stay flat along the entire surface of the top one or the bottom two. That's a property.
All right. Mind I've got them. Well, you were finished making your point, right? I want to move over to
Yes,
Fight the
Hello.
Flatter so we can
anybody hear
now
me?
we can hear you.
We can
There we
hear you,
go.
John. Yes.
Okay, you can hear me. Okay, you mind of God, you really should have stopped. But right after the whole level thing, for one thing, you meandered for a long time to get to your point. But so the point was, the first point that needs to be addressed is the whole level thing. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but just so that we're all on the same page here, on your little diagram that you drew, you're saying that the levels, on the side of the earth, should be in a different orientation than the ones on top of the earth? Is that what the point was? Like, I don't know if Fight the Flat Earth understood it, but I know me, and I don't know if anybody else understood it. Could you explain what that was exactly supposed to represent there? Because I have no idea what kind of point you were making with that.
No, that's cool. So yeah, basically for the earth, the inner earth, the actual earth, and then the blue outer ball, if you were to, obviously we can't do this because the earth has, different, features like hills and all that. Let's just say it was pure water or something. Like, you could actually drag something perfectly on its surface all the way around. In the outer one and the inner one, the level wouldn't move in ball earth theory because it's perpendicular to the direction of gravity at all. Do you agree with that statement technically?
Yes, that makes sense.
Okay. That was my point. And in the other two, the red and the green one, it will react like any other hill that we traverse or any other mountain or any other uneven, quote unquote, uneven.
Can I ask you, how do you think a carpenter's level works? What forces are causing that bubble to move?
What forces are?
Yeah, the bubble's moving around, like you said. So what's causing that bubble within the carpenter's level to move?
I mean, it's not on just as long as it's not on a flat surface.
But why? It's moving, so there has to be a force acting upon it. So why is that bubble moving around?
If it's like tilted sideways, let's just say, if I were to just literally shift it sideways.
Yeah. Why do you think it would then orientate itself to what, so that the bubble is perpendicular to the earth? Why do you think it would do that?
Wait, sorry. Can you say that once more, Craig? Just so I understand.
I want to understand how you think a carpenter's level works. So if you're putting a carpenter's level down on something and it's not even, the bubble is going to represent that. So what is making that bubble move? What is telling that bubble it's got to be at a different position based on what level it's on?
Its orientation is not level. I don't know how to answer that. It's just
the answer is buoyant forces and gravity. Level means perpendicular to gravity. I mean, I kind of drew this. I don't know if you can see it, but no matter where you are on the earth, you're being pulled directly towards the middle. I think you kind of covered that, right? But if you're taking your carpenter's level up a hill, the bubble's going to move about, but once it's settled, the bubble will still be perpendicular to whatever gravity is. Gravity doesn't change because you're going up a hill. And to say that there's always beneath your feet isn't necessarily true, because land has contours. So, you can't really think like that.
I get that. It's idealized for sure. I'm assuming they're all smooth. It's more a thought experiment to understand. Just think about this though. Like in that picture that I put, that arc tree, those 4 arcs, you have to understand that the level knows that second one from the top to behave. It knows to not move.
The level doesn't. Sorry for talking about that, but the level doesn't know anything. The level.
No, I know. I agree with that.
Purely reacting to the forces upon it. There's
I'm
nothing else telling the level what to do. So sorry.
I'm speaking in your language. Like I don't believe that. Obviously, I'm just telling you kind of what you believe. Like that level, if you were to have those 4 shapes, any shape that's above the Earth's surface or the Earth's surface itself, that matches the curve of the Earth at a local level or big arc or however you say it, that level, when you slide it on top, will not move in your theory.
If it's staying perfectly level, yes.
No, as long as it's going to, as long as it's touching the surface and gliding along.
Sorry, so can I just clarify? Is your issue the fact that it will move, the bubble will move as you transition between surfaces?
No, I have a problem that it will not move on a curve when that's what it's designed to do.
Well, if the curve is completely perpendicular to gravity, and we discount any kind of inertial forces, then the level is going to stay perfectly level. But if you take it onto like a hill, and you have it perpendicular to the hill, the level is then not going to be level within the carpenter's level itself. The bubble will then make itself perpendicular to gravity. No matter where you take that level, it's going to behave exactly as it should, based on the globe model, gravity, inertia, buoyant forces, and all the things that make that bubble move. Anything that it does is going to be exactly what we expect it to do.
But just as a thought experiment, think of an infinite number of surfaces. It's like, and you have this level traversing all of these surfaces. The one that matches Earth curve, it's going to not react at all. It's going to all of a sudden kind of freeze. It's going to not react when you slide the level over. That to me is like magic. That's just not physical. Well, it's not going to happen.
If you discount any kind of inertial forces, then it's going to just appear to be still. But that's because it's doing its job. It is telling you that it's level to gravity, so it's not going to move. That's what it's for.
That's I think I understand your point, and if it doesn't sit with you, it's totally fine. I'm telling you that there is a curve out there that exists, which we both will say is the one that matches Earth curve. That a level will traverse it and it will stay perfectly, like the liquid will stay put. That's what you believe.
It's designed to do. No, we don't believe it. That's what will actually happen. If you took a level and put it on something that's level with sea level, perpendicular to gravity, it's not going to move, because that's what it's designed to do. That's not magic. That's just it doing its job.
I think that's respect,
I don't really understand what your objection is to the bubble moving within a carpenter's level, because that's what it's supposed to do, so that it tells us if something is level. Am I missing the point here?
No, I think we understand each other. I think it's just gravity has properties that you believe in, and that's fine. I'm just stating that I don't. But here's one last thought experiment on this. Just imagine you could push a button and you have the Earth, and then you could just raise its curve into the air so everybody can see it, like visually. You'll see whether it be like a track or for a train or something that will be perfectly curved. Like we could all like visualize that the surface is not flat. It's an arc.
Well, we have to be moved up rather than the surface.
No, we only care about the surface, because that's what we're talking about.
Yeah, but to see the curve on our Earth, we moving the surface up isn't going to change that. The only way that we could see the curve on our Earth.
Oh, okay, sorry, I understand.
In that kind of perspective is if you were really high.
True. But imagine we're God. No, I'm just kidding. Imagine we're like stepping outside of this whole thing, and we could watch the Earth, the ball, and all of a sudden see a representation of its curve above it. Let's just say.
Okay.
Just think of that.
Right.
Can you visualize that?
Okay.
Yeah. So there is
put that in
now
my head.
a very obvious arc or curve that now a level you have to believe that when it traverses that will not react. To me,
Well,
that's
again,
just visually that doesn't make sense.
Okay. It's just the level is literally just doing what it does. Now, do you mind if I ask you some questions relating to gravity? Because I kind of think that your understanding of gravity isn't the same as mine. So, you know, I'm holding this pencil right now. If I let it go, what's going to happen to it?
Probably hit your book.
Yeah, but why? Why is it going to fall?
Because you let go of it.
Why? Yeah, but why? Not only is it falling, okay, but it's accelerating at 9.8 meters per second squared. And we know that acceleration requires a force. So not only is it falling, but it's accelerating, which means that there is a force acting upon it. So what is that force?
I mean, I don't ask myself that. Like,
maybe you should.
That's not a question that I have. I mean, if you have a point or a demonstration, I will listen. I have no issue.
I don't ask myself why something falls. You're asking how a bubble within a carpenter's level reacts, and the answer is gravity. So I kind of feel like you have to understand what gravity is from a ball earther's concept to be able to say that. You know, do you know the equation for gravity?
The force of gravity?
Yeah.
Yeah. I have it in one of my future slides. The M1, M2.
Yeah. And do you understand what that formula represents?
Sorry to interrupt. Here's the way I would interpret what you just said about the pen falling. I would say that there are certain, natural laws, I guess. I don't know, you're not going to like this term, but that's just a property of like us being on this earth, that things fall. So if you want to think of like a unit vector pointing downwards to help you understand why things have a sort of a disposition to move downwards,
explain what that vector is. Sorry, yeah, we have to
I would just say, I only say, I don't think that that's real. I just say that to kind of help the mathy people have math, I guess. But it's just, if you want a way to understand why that thing went down, it's just, there is a unit vector that exists that things will naturally want to go down, up or sideways.
But, and that's the point. And you shouldn't just stop at things should naturally go down. The next point is then, well, why do things go down? And again, not only do they go down, but they accelerate at a constant rate that can be observed by anyone ever that drops something. And like I've said, acceleration requires a force. That's not a disputable point. We all know that acceleration requires a force. You've got to put petrol into your car to give it the energy so that it can accelerate. The same way, something's got to be acting on this with a force to make it accelerate at 9.8 meters per second squared.
But wait,
and we can't just say it falls. Can I just finish my point, if you don't mind? We can't just say it falls because that's a natural law. We kind of have to look at why that is a natural law. And then based on that understanding, we can look at other things and understand why things happen. You know, that's, for me, understanding gravity is a very basic thing. And in a way, I feel like you're completely dismissing it when it's one of the biggest things within the flat earth debate. Gravity, there has to be another explanation for gravity other than just magic.
Well, and actually, in one of my future
points,
your
explanation is.
Yeah, in one of my future points, I'll pick on gravity a little bit more. Maybe you can get a feel for why I am against it, at least for now. Yeah, I guess your point where you use energy and force in your last point, and so I'm not debating that energy transfer and all those kind of things exist. I'm not saying like magically the thing got the the desire to fall and it just kind of did it on its own. Like I understand that whole concept. That there's potential energy. There's energy that has changed from you holding it in your hand to releasing it and falling it. So I'm not saying that that's not happening. If that's, in the very least, I'm not saying that that's not happening. So
Well,
I wouldn't call it a
main
force.
point is that but acceleration requires a force. That is an indisputable point. And when something is falling on Earth at 9.8 meters per second squared, that is acceleration. So there has to be a force. It can't be,
Yeah,
I don't think
fine.
that's a
I
force
guess,
because acceleration requires a force. So my question to you is, if it's not gravity, what is that force? You know,
I would just say
there
it's
has to be
proportional to
another
the,
thing.
yeah, it's proportional to the energy that basically it possesses when you're holding it. So it's, yeah, I don't have a formula, but
causing that energy transfer. There's something causing that kinetic energy to transfer into the pen to make it accelerate down. There is a physical force, and that's what I don't. I feel like you're just dismissing the fact that it is a force that is measurable. Anyone can measure the gravity as a force, and without an explanation of what that force is, you can't really move on to say that, oh, I just think that's it because that's the way it is. So, if you've got any other points about gravity, I'd like you to bring them up now so that I can address them, because I feel like you don't really understand what gravity is, with all due respect.
No, I do not take offense to that. I will, if we're able to go to that point, I think it would help, actually.
Yeah.
More of the technical underpinnings.
If you've got some points about gravity, please bring them up now, and I'd like to address them for you.
Okay, if we can go to slide 16. This is why my talk was called, had vectors in the name. So I want to talk about gravity vectors, this field, which we were just discussing. And I want to make a point that they have to be orthogonal. And this is when I was watching not to bring up Russian vids in this, but when he was mentioning, water next to like a small plant, and how are they, how is the plant not influenced by the gravity that's holding the water in place? Really, what he's articulating is what I think a lot of us have qualms with gravity. Is gravity would have to be orthogonal, and I'll explain to you what I mean by this if we can go to the next slide. So first, I want to define what the term orthogonal even means. So orthogonal, just to give you a frequency, like an electrical engineering, which is my background in telecommunications. Orthogonal can mean different things with different signals, but in this case, these 4 sync pulses are orthogonal in frequency, because I don't know if you guys can see the color. The first one's red, green, blue, and then magenta. At the peak of those signals, you will actually see the way that these sync pulses are designed, that all the other signals cancel or go through 0 at the peaks. So this is just an amazing, construct principle of these signals called sync pulses. And so what this allows the person to do, to use these as what are called carrier frequencies. And you can basically then treat these signals as orthogonal, or in a looser kind of term, you can think of them as they're kind of independent. Like you can actually, they're obviously interacting with each other, as you can see in the picture, but you're able to use them to encode and decode signals because they're orthogonal in frequency. I'll give more real life examples about that. I'm definitely not pretending to, people get this. I get it. This is a very niche thing, but just understand.
Can I address that, if you
yes.
don't mind?
Yeah, sorry.
Are you saying that gravity is variable?
No, I'm just saying the vector field that would need to be defining gravity, those vectors would need to be orthogonal, and I'll explain what I mean by that.
Okay.
So this is the concept. In this case, it's orthogonal in frequency. Just remember that, because these signals are able to be sort of decoupled and pieced apart. Even though they're sort of clustered together. So if we can go to the next slide. This is the part that a lot of us have issues with, and maybe can be addressed here. I don't know, but on a ball Earth, you have all this water. Our concern, I would say, I don't want to speak for the flat Earth community, because obviously I don't know everybody, but it's intellectually uncomfortable to think of water being held together by these gravity vectors to a ball Earth, which is the only thing that is an explanation for why it's able to do that. and then also, you know, hold, you know, people or other things in place as well. But the vectors that are, or the field, that's a better word for it, that's holding that water body in place is not interfering with the vector or the field that's holding the human in place. This is necessary, or else the human would get crushed or sucked into the earth, or however it works.
Okay, you're kind of assuming that it has to have a stronger force on one thing than another. Is that right?
It has to, yes. It absolutely, because of the formula.
Gravity is a constant, and it's intrinsically linked to mass. For instance, in this picture you've got here, the mass of that person is a lot less than the mass of that ocean, right? So
I understand that.
The gravity is acting the same on both of them, but there is more mass on the ocean for it to act on. It's still acting with a constant force, but because there's more mass of the ocean than there is of that person, that means that it's going to hold that on stronger than the person, but it's not going to act differently to the person because it's just based on their mass. So,
you're correct. Those vectors, I agree. What you said, those vectors are different magnitude. I mean, this is a cartoon, so I drew them, you know, not to scale. But yeah, I agree. The black vector holding the human would be less a magnitude based on that formula, G M1 M2, whatever that is. And then the blue one,
F equals G M1 M2 over R squared.
Right, over R squared, yeah. And then so the blue one would obviously have to be much higher in magnitude. And again, this is a field. I just drew one vector, but that would obviously have to be a massively strong force.
Again, that's where you're wrong, because the magnitude of it wouldn't have to be stronger. It's exactly the same. It's just acting on the more mass in regards to the water, because there's more mass there. You know, they are intrinsically linked, as the formula explains. You know, F equals G M1 M2 over R squared. You know, the fact that those M's are next to each other, you know, shows that they are intrinsically linked, and the force of gravity that's acting at 9.8 meters per second squared is acting exactly the same on that person as it is on that body of water. It's just because there is more of the body of water, you know, it's got more to act upon. The actual magnitude of the force hasn't changed.
But the gravity, do you agree that gravity can be described as a vector field, or is that do you not believe that?
No, not really.
That's problematic.
I mean, gravity is a force. Gravity is a force. It's what's giving something. It's what's giving something a vector. You know, a lot of flat earthers go to the argument of density and buoyancy being a replacement for gravity. But then my argument to them is, well, what's giving it that vector? What is making it go down? So yes, gravity does give an object a vector, but
it's a vector field.
But it's not changing how much it's affecting either thing. It is a constant.
No, I agree. That's why it's orthogonal. That's my point. You're actually stating my point, that gravity is a vector field because the vectors are pointing perpendicularly inwards towards the center of this supposed ball Earth, and it would be like a three-dimensional field, right? Because it's not just pinning an item to a ball; it's supporting it in 3 dimensions. So it is a field vector. Whether it can be described mathematically, that's a different story. I'm trying, or I'm saying it's going to be hard to do that. Is a better way to say it. But this vector field, I agree with kind of. I think what you're saying is that the vector field that is kind of committed to keeping the water in place is not interfering with the vector field that's in charge of holding the human in place.
There's no reason why it should. It's the same thing. There's not an independent vector field for the two different things, if that's the way you want to refer to it. The force of gravity
they have to be independent because they're different magnitudes.
They don't, because gravity is a constant. It is just a constant acting on everything at the same time. There is no
but it's
changing. The only independence is the fact that the mass between the things is different. Gravity coming from the Earth, if you want to, that's not the right way to describe it, but the gravity coming from the Earth, because of the Earth's mass, is acting exactly the same on everything. It doesn't change. It doesn't. It doesn't have some kind of consciousness that can decide it needs to act different upon the different things. It is a constant force that is acting upon everything exactly the same.
I mean, that's our point
sorry,
of
can I just ask the
agreement.
mod? Am I explaining this right? John?
David, can you move us back to the main screen?
Oh shit! No, I'm not muted.
Mhm.
I'm not
I
muted.
can hear you now.
What is going on?
We can hear you fine now.
Do you feel like am I explaining this correctly? I mean, I feel like we go around in circles and I'm explaining the same
You can
point.
hear me fine?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Mind of God, if I understand you correctly, what you're saying is basically that gravity pulls all the objects to the center of the Earth. Is that a simple way of putting it?
No, I just described it as a vector field, which I feel it has to be. And it would need to be able to delineate between the vectors operating on a human or a smaller item or a larger item based on the formula G, M1, M2, R squared, whatever that is. So it has this sort of...
Okay, then I was totally lost in your entire presentation. Okay. All right.
And gravity
maybe move on from this whole vector field thing because we've been on this for a little while. So
okay, that's fine. That's fine.
Okay, right.
If I can
let's
just
get to something a little bit more simple, if that's all right.
Yeah, go for it.
One of my main things about this whole flat Earth is that every single observation that can be made by anyone ever conforms exactly to what we expect on the globe model. There is no variances. When the math is done correctly, every observation that is made is exactly what we expect it to be. For instance, the horizon, it is a flat line, but we expect it to be a flat line because in effect, the horizon is a cross section of the sphere of the Earth. And a cross section is a circle, which is 2D and it's flat. So you would expect to see a flat horizon. The fact that when you look at the North and South pole stars and they rotate in different directions, that is what we would expect to see based on the model that we have. There is, that is exactly what we expect to see. Ships going over the horizon matches the math of refraction when it's done properly if the conditions are known. The simple things like the angular size of the sun and the moon not changing completely blows any possibility of them being small and local. I mean, I've got about 20 different points of fact that observations match exactly what our model explains, yet none of them would match a flat Earth model, not that there is any such thing available. So how do you explain that all of the observations match what the globe would expect, but nothing really works on a flat Earth?
I mean, I would never accuse the globe of being like totally off. That's not. I don't think that anything that sophisticated would propagate for that long and be completely ridiculous. So I'm not. I would never say anything like that. But I don't know. That's why I had that slide of in a preamble. I do think that eventually something will be done where it won't be a debate. Like there will just be an obvious sort of conclusive thing. I don't believe that has happened yet. So
I completely disagree. Let's look at the angular size of the sun and the moon.
Let me just finish that point. All I want to say is these things to me are foundational. Like the way like the few points that I'm presenting here, for me personally, this is foundational for me. I could like sit on this for 20 years and still not figure it out or whatever. But I would not discredit what you're saying as foundational, as evidence that will one day lead to the conclusive evidence that obviously you're satisfied with right now, but a larger community would be. I'm not. I don't know. I don't know what you're presenting or those videos, Miles and all those people. Like, I don't know what they're doing.
All right. Let's have a look at Miles's video. Can we put up Miles's video if that's all right? Yeah. Just it's like 2 minutes something long.
Hello and welcome again. Hopefully my audio is now fixed and you can hear this clearly. This is a brief summary video of my longer video, and if the audio is clear on this, I'll go back and re-narrate the longer video. So in summary, we have here a camera taking a photograph, and the camera is 210 meters above sea level. The bridge tower, this bridge tower, indicated by the arrow, is 210 meters above sea level. Here is a line drawn across the screen level with the top of that tower. And because the camera is at 210 meters and the bridge tower top is also at 210 meters, this means that everything below the red line must be less than 210 meters above sea level. But only if the Earth is flat. If the Earth is not flat, then we will see objects that are more than 210 meters above sea level below this line. This is Cairnrog Hill. It is 413 meters above sea level. The peak of Cairnrog Hill is below the 210 meter line.
Okay, I think that
Only
makes the
one
point,
conclusion is
really,
possible. Earth is not flat. Thank you for watching.
So yeah, if you haven't subscribed to Miles Davis, please guys go and do it. He's making some very basic observations that are proven very things. So CP, how do you explain that then? You know, if the Earth's flat, that's not possible, right?
I mean, I'll be honest. I'll subscribe to his channel. Again, I'm not saying that that those things are not interesting to me, but it's not. It's just not the way that I'm wired. I don't gravitate towards that, for lack of a better term. But
you don't
I'll look
gravitate
into
towards facts. I mean, but you know, is there any explanation, as someone that believes the Earth is flat, that you have for that observation? I mean, just assume at this point that it's completely true. So, you know, simple things like this make it very, very hard for me to understand how anybody can think the Earth is flat. You know, so that is my kind of point that I'm making with everything, is that all of the observations that we make match exactly what would happen on a globe. It matches 100% the math of the globe model. And the fact that there isn't even a flat Earth model, you know, how can you, based on all those facts, unequivocal facts, how can you still think the Earth is flat?
Well, I guess to be fair on the flat Earth, I know I get that a lot from people in general who post on my few videos, but I mean, that's something that takes time. I know that that's not a you know, popular answer, but you know, that we're dealing with for my entire life, you know, being fed something. This is why I don't think it's going to take long to come up with these things once you know, with all this technology out there and, you know, the energy that's behind it and all that. So I guess, you know, maybe next year this time, I don't know, stay tuned, I guess.
All right.
I don't know.
I suppose one of the best questions I could ask you is, what would convince you that the Earth is a globe?
I mean, I think what everybody would say would just be, yeah, an image for sure. Like that's
but
real time.
But there's a billion images that you can
I would want, like, I would want the, yeah, I would say zoom in and with the clarity that we would expect with modern day technology, like people upside down. I'm talking planes upside down, buildings upside down.
You wouldn't see things upside down because there is no upside down. That's not how it works. The ISS is in orbit, so it's always going to orientate itself to whatever it's above. You can't take photos of things upside down because the way that you're thinking about upside down isn't how upside down works.
I get it. Not to cut you off. I understand. I know what you're getting at. All I'm saying is human beings standing in a different orientation. How about that? Fine. Not upside down.
That's because that's how. But again, that observation matches reality and the math. If they're not upside down, the orientation is based upon gravity. There is no, that person is standing sideways to me. They're not. They're just standing perpendicular to gravity. That's a very strange line of thinking that, to me, is almost like a child's thinking. You know, that I've got a 5-year-old daughter, sorry, and that to me is almost like the way that she would think. But surely, as intelligent adults,
you have a smart
should
daughter.
Understand that I would think any 5-year-old would kind of understand it if this explained to them. But my point is that you can't look at things like that, they're upside down, because they're not. That's not how it works.
But I don't know why you're
thinking.
Don't worry about the semantic. You asked me a question, I responded with a visual depiction of the Earth as we're, you know, and some of the features.
Everything is expected based upon the model that we have. How do you explain the sun and the moon stay in the same angular size throughout the day if they're within a dome? Forget the angular size. Let's say the sun that is giving us all this energy is within that dome. The amount of energy that it gives per square meter to the Earth would mean that if that was within the dome, we'd all be on fire, like right now, burning. You know, if there was a dome, the runaway greenhouse effect.
If it was as big as you say, possibly, yeah.
Okay, I just want to gently remind everybody of, you know, allowing each other to finish and allowing each other to before, you know, you start talking and whatnot. Just a gentle reminder, okay?
My bad. Thank you.
Yeah, sorry as well. So, I mean, so my main point is that how can you look at all these things which have math to back it up and the fact that it matches everything? How can you still consider the Earth to be flat? Even from a religious standpoint, most religious people don't think the Earth's flat. Most Christians don't think that the Bible says the Earth's flat. So even from a religious standpoint, it's against what most people think. I mean, I don't declare to be an expert in religion. I've read the Bible and I've read a lot of the other religious scriptures, but I wouldn't say I've ever studied them. But I would never look at anything they say and take that as it's telling me the Earth is flat. So I don't really understand how an intelligent person like yourself can look at all of this and still come to the conclusion that the Earth is flat.
I guess I'll shelf that response just for now, just so we keep it on the technical side. But you know, we can discuss that offline, or if you would like. But you know, trust me, this is not something I wanted. You know, this is not something I don't want this debate to exist. Trust me.
But that is my whole point. How can you come here and say that the Earth is flat when there is all these unequivocal facts that I can present you over and over? And so far, again, with all due respect, your answer's pretty much been, I don't know. You know, and that kind of, any position that you have, if your answer is always, I don't know, then maybe you don't have the right position and you should move to the position where the answers are, oh, I do know. You know, I'm sorry, but you seem intelligent. I don't understand how you come to these conclusions. It makes absolutely no sense to me.
No, that's fine. I think that's why I tried to be a little bit more sort of colorful, I guess, in my PowerPoint, where giving you a sense of really where I'm at. I'm not one of these very mature, you know, flat Earth people who've been at this for a while and doing a lot of experiments and all that. You know, I think that I'm more of a newbie, and I understand and I view the world in a certain way. You know, maybe some time from now I can have more observations or something, or a critique of what you presented. But I work from very much first principles, mathematics, and this is the way I see the world. You know, and do I automatically? So this orthogonality in this wave field, for example, that would be something important for me. Like someone, whoever it is, maybe not on this show, someone would need to sit down and explain to me how those how that vector field can have orthogonal vectors, essentially intelligent vectors in there. They would have to be intelligent.
With respect, it's not intelligent. That the force is constant upon everything. It doesn't change. You know.
Well, sorry to interrupt. I'm wondering, Fight the Flat Earth, could you explain how gravity works in a three-dimensional space? Because I'm wondering if maybe that's the holdup. Like, I don't know if the mind of God understands, like, in a three-dimensional space, how gravity affects objects that are in 360 degrees, all around it. Like, how does that affect it?
I think to explain that, you have to visualize it in 2 dimensions at first. Imagine a big rubber sheet that's been pulled out tight, and then you put a big weight in the middle of it. Okay, it's going to make a well. Okay, and then you put something else that's slightly smaller towards the side of it, and it's going to go towards that well. Gravity is that, but in 3 dimensions. It's making everything pull towards that center because of its effect on space-time. The mass is warping space-time so that things move, other masses move towards it, and the bigger mass will have the bigger gravity well, which will make things to move towards that. There is no change if, from the Earth's perspective, the gravity that it gives out, that's not a phrase I like using, but it kind of describes it, is a constant thing, and change. It's not going to be able to distinguish between one thing and another. It is constantly affecting everything with a force that equates to an acceleration of 9.8 meters per second squared. And that doesn't change because something else has a bigger amount of mass. The same way that that ball on a big stretched out rubber sheet won't be able to affect things differently because all they're being affected by is that well. And that's going to affect everything exactly the same, no matter how big it is. Does that explain it?
Well, do you agree that the obvious that the forces needed to hold water would be much greater than anything else, like a person or a bird or something? I mean, okay, we're not debating that, right?
No, the force is not changing. The mass of the water is so much more that there's more for that force to act upon. So no, you don't need a different amount of force to hold water to the ground as you do to hold something a lot smaller.
You don't, or you do?
No, you don't. The same way that,
how is that
gravity is affecting a dragonfly exactly the same way. A dragonfly can defy gravity because it's creating a force, an upward thrust that is stronger than gravity. If it stops flapping its wings, that upward force goes away, and the force of gravity takes back over and it goes down. The force of gravity never goes away. It doesn't change. It's exactly the same on everything. But because bigger things have more mass, there's more mass for that constant force of gravity to act upon.
But the vectors that we're using to model the forces that are holding the water in place would have to be orthogonal to the vectors that are holding something lighter in place.
Agreed.
It has to be. They can't interact, or else they would overwhelm the lighter one.
That's the thing. There's no interacting. It's not a different force acting.
I agree there's no interacting. They have to be orthogonal. That's what I've been saying. They have to be orthogonal.
Sorry, you're assuming that there's different forces acting upon different things. Like there is a gravity field affecting one thing and another.
No, I'm not. They have different magnitude. But you already said that. It's G m1 m2 over d squared r squared or whatever. That force is the amplitude of the vector, and the vector direction is towards the center of an oblate spheroid. So this is a field that is dynamic depending on the masses that are on the Earth.
Well, just to preface here, Mind of God.
Yeah.
Well, Mind of God, just to make sure, I guess to have come to a point or something. So basically, let's say you have a 100-pound person, and then you have 100 pounds of water. They're both going to have the same amount of force applied to them by gravity. But what Fight the Flat Earth is pointing out here is that a person doesn't weigh the amount that the entire ocean does. So the amount of mass that is being affected by gravity is changing. So that's what's changing in the situation. The actual force isn't changing because our force equation isn't changing. It's the amount of mass that is variable. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So the F is changing when the M changes. I get that. And let's assume they're both on the surface, so the R is fixed. And then the G is a constant. So yeah, I agree. And the M of the Earth is fixed. So the only thing that's changing that we're able to change in this thought experiment are the masses. I agree. Yes. And then that will change the F, which is the amplitude of the vector field.
Okay. But I'm sorry.
vector
Fight
is
the
a
flat Earth. Do you have any response for that?
I think I've already responded, and again, without being rude, I just don't think you understand it. I honestly don't think you understand what that formula represents. And when you plug in the numbers, if you take the different masses and you plug in the numbers, then it works, and it doesn't change a vector field in anything. The formula works. There's no arguing about that.
Craig, can I ask one thing? We all agree that gravity is a field, right? It has to be. It's a three-dimensional field, for lack of a better phrase. It's operating on objects in a three-dimensional way. The magnitude is governed by this F equals G m1 m2 over r squared, and the directionality is fixed because it is perpendicular to the surface towards the center of the Earth. Is that correct?
Yes. Yes.
Direction's fixed based on that. And then the magnitude is governed by this formula, G m1, m2, yada, yada. So that's a vector field, right? And so, yeah, if there's a large mass like the ocean or a lake or whatever, that's a big M leads to a big F, big amplitude in those vectors, just pictorially. Those are big, heavy vectors that are assigned, for lack of a better word, to keep the water in place. There are smaller amplitude vectors assigned to keep a butterfly against the Earth. That's a fact. I don't understand how that's even why are we even debating this?
But again,
that's the definition of the gravity field.
The only thing that's changing in that whole thing is the M of the butterfly.
The M. Yeah, and the F.
Nothing else
and the vectors.
It doesn't need to be a question about a different vector field. The only thing
no, it's not. I'm not saying it's a different vector field. I'm saying it's a different amplitude in those vectors. I'm not saying the field's changing or gravity is changing its mind or anything like that. I'm just saying if we were to picture, imagine something on the Earth and then have it just move around. You know, imagine if we had the calculations and the rendering. You could see a field called gravity act on that with bigger and smaller amplitude vectors. Do you agree with that in a three-dimensional sense? You know, if we had some really good computational person, we could do some modeling on that. But when you move that thing around, it increases weight, loses weight, or whatever you call it, mass. Like it's going to that vector field will adjust according to that formula that we were both talking about. And
again, the vector field will
I think we can agree on that. Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Yeah. Yeah, the M is changing, which leads to the F changing, which leads to the vector changing. That's just by the math. That you change the mass, the force will adjust accordingly, and then the vector will update.
You here, but I genuinely feel like you're adding something that doesn't need to be added. The formula adequately explains exactly what's going on. The only thing that is changing,
that's fine. I'm not debating that.
Is the M. You
I'm
don't
not
have to
actually
think about anything else. You're putting something in the formula, a thought that doesn't need to be there, and I think that's confusing you. And
Craig, check this out. Here's my point. Here's the last point on this. That just food for thought. We belabored this formula thing. Just my point actually initially was the orthogonality. Is that when you have multiple items on the Earth at different M, those forces, which we could represent using vectors, would have to act independently. They cannot interfere with one another, or else they would crush the lighter object. This is intellectually uncomfortable. This is not true. This is not the way the world is.
No, I disagree with that whole statement. And I think
I know you do, but that's my point.
I honestly, with all due respect, I don't think you understand what that formula means in the slightest. You know, I really do not think in your head you get how that formula makes things work. And, you know, I'm not being nasty, but that's my honest opinion here.
I agree with that. Okay. I agree with that. Yeah.
Okay. Yes. So sorry. I know we've been harping on this particular subject for a little bit. Could we maybe change subject? Fight the flat Earth. Do you have any other points that you want to bring up to the mind of God?
Oh, there's so many. That's the thing. That's why the whole existence of the flat earth thing confuses me, because there is so many points I can bring up. We go back to simple observations like moon phases, you know, completely impossible.
I like that. I like that topic.
Completely predictable on a round earth. Right, so go on. What's your explanation for moon phases?
Well, I just posted a video a couple of days ago. I got a lot of interesting feedback. So I was on a golf course. I was just filming the moon, middle of the afternoon. You could see half of the moon. Okay, like literally like pizza pie. You can see the right half of it, and then the sun was over on the right hand side. So my question still to this day is, why couldn't I see why is the sun not able to illuminate the edge of the moon? Why can I only see half right hand side of the moon?
Right. In your video, it was actually very, very clear that based on the position of the moon and the sun, that only that side of the moon would be lit up. The moon was off to the left in the sky. The sun was off to the right in the sky. So when you're looking at the moon, the right of the moon is going to be lit up and not the left of it. So you're only going to see half the moon. When light is hitting a sphere, it's only going to be able to illuminate one side of it. Of course, you're not going to see the other side that the light isn't hitting. So the video that you showed, again, is completely explainable and expected on our model. With respect, your problem here is that you're not visualizing 3D space correctly.
Well, I'm not seeing the edges. No, I'm not seeing the edges. That's what concerns me.
What do you mean the edges?
The edges of the moon.
Of course, you're seeing the edges of the moon.
No, in this example, I was only seeing the right half of the moon. I would not see. I could not see the other.
Yeah, because that's the dark side of the moon. You wouldn't see the dark side of the moon.
No,
hence
but
its name.
you have to understand. So the perspective is that I'm seeing a face of the moon. Obviously, right? When I'm looking at the moon, I'm seeing, it, right? So I get your point about the right side of it facing the sun. I'm not. Yeah, fine. We'll go with that. Now, but my main question though is like, why are those rays not able to interact with the edge of the moon? I agree, not the whole thing should be lit up. Fair enough. It's facing whatever, that direction. But why is the left edges not illuminated? This bothers me intellectually.
Behind the moon. The moon's
there's a lot here. Craig, here's my point.
Can I answer it first before you?
Yes, sorry. Yeah.
You just imagine a torchlight shining on a ball in pitch black, and you are only going to see one side of that ball. You're not going to see the rest of it. You're not going to see any edges. You're only going to see what is lit up by the light of the sun, because the light can't go through the moon and light up the other side of it. Again, what you're describing is completely expected and explained by our model. And your problem is that you cannot visualize 3D space correctly.
Well, wait. So here's my point on that. And, talk me through this, I guess. Like, this is a little bit of a different example because we're dealing with a sun that is illuminating everything. I mean, we can see the sky behind it. We can see lights everywhere. It's like the middle of the day. So why is that light not able to interact with the edge of the moon? What's holding it, even though it's interacting with what I think is the firmament or the dome behind us or above us, behind the moon? It's the rays are everywhere in 3 space.
Okay, so just so that I understand, you think that there is a sky behind the moon?
Yeah, a dome, the firmament.
Okay.
Okay, right. Let's look at what I've just drawn here, okay? All right, that's the sun. Right. So just imagine that's the sun, right? And it's beaming onto the earth, and here's the moon, right? If you're standing here looking up at the moon, you're only going to see the light that's hitting this side of the moon. You're not going to see anything this side because there's no light hitting it. The light would have to go through the moon to interact with the other side. If you're here, you are only going to see the half of the moon that is facing towards the sun. That's a very simple. That's a very simple thing to understand. The light's coming from this way. so you can only see what the light's hitting. You
No, I get that.
You can't see the moon. You see the light coming from the moon, and if the light is only reflecting off of the bit that's it's able to, you're only going to see that part of it.
But okay, that's the thing for me though, is like you can see, this is the issue, is that there are rays everywhere around that moon. We know that because we can see behind it. We can see behind it, above it, whatever you describe it. Like it's something beyond the moon. We can see the blue sky.
Yeah, space is beyond the moon.
It's receiving those light rays.
I think this is becoming, because you're assuming that the moon is within a dome. You know,
I thought we all believed that.
No, literally only about 0.2% of the population believe that. And okay, now, when you look at the moon during the day, and it's a half moon like it was in your video, right? Yeah. The bit that isn't lit up is going to appear blue because that's the color of the rest of the sky. You know, and the sky is that color because of the way that light interacts with our atmosphere and allows us to see the wavelengths that are coming. That's why the sky looks blue. And because the moon, the part of it you can't see, it's not being illuminated. That bit that isn't being illuminated, it's just going to look blue because the rest of the sky is. If it was nighttime, what behind it would be black. So, but again, yeah, you because you're coming from an assumption that we are within a dome, that you're unable to think of it correctly in three-dimensional space. You have to look at it from an intellectually honest position of, well, if it is a sphere, this is how it would work, rather than what you're quite clearly doing, which is just assuming that we're in a dome with a small and local moon.
But wait, your point in a way actually makes mine sort of stronger. Let's say that there isn't a dome and it's just deep space. That's even that's almost like more bold, because that means that the sun is has the intensity to reach even further than this quote unquote dome. So there's like even more ample abundance of rays out there in three space that should be readily accessible to the edge of the entire moon. Why is that not happening? Why are these interactions happening with everything but the edge?
The light's going in one direction. It's not going to turn around and interact with the other side. The light is coming from one direction. You're not going to see what the light isn't hitting. That's why there's a dark side of the moon and a light side of the moon, because we can only see the side that is being reflected. You wouldn't see the other side because there is no light hitting it from the other side. Maybe minuscule amounts from the stars in the sky, but you're not going to see something that the light isn't able to reflect off of. That's a very simple concept.
You do agree the light is okay? That's fine. Sorry.
So sorry. I mean, we've really gone over this one particular point for a bit. I'm just kind of curious if I could ask a question, and maybe we could discuss that. So the mind of God, you think that there's a sky behind the moon, and science has an explanation as to why the sky is blue during the day and why we don't see like a blue sky at night. I'm kind of curious, on your model that you have in your head, how do you explain the change, quote unquote, behind the moon of the sky's color when you transition from day to night?
I don't think you're going to like my answer.
Oh, no. Trust me, I will love your answer. Go ahead.
Can you actually, well, I mean, I guess from what I know now, obviously I haven't been there, but you know, that there's water, there's some blue substance above a dome. And when the sun is not able to hit it and it moves away, however you describe that, it's getting further away from the part that I can see. There's no light there. So we just see the evening sky.
Can I address that point that you just brought up there of it moving away? All right. So in the flat Earth model, the sun is above the Earth, right? Yeah. So the sun is the common number that I get from flat Earthers is about 3.
We just look up. You just lift your head up. You can see the sun is above us. That's not in the model.
Yeah, of course. But the common number we get from flat Earthers is about 3,000 miles. So how do you explain that if the sun is above us, how do you explain that it ever goes below the horizon? I mean, that's just not possible on a flat Earth. The sun is above you. How can it go below you if the Earth is flat?
I think I have a feeling you know the answer.
You would always be able to see the sun unless the sun has some magical properties of a lampshade that is shape-shifting. I mean,
when you see a plane take off, can you see it in its entire journey, wherever it's going? Of course not.
Well, of course not, but the plane is pretty small and only about 20,000 feet up.
Sure. Then I don't know what the size of the sun is, so I can't make a point on that. But obviously, if the sun gets far enough away, whatever size it is, we would not be able to see it. That's just I don't understand why that's even why is that even a worry in your mind?
Of course it is, because the sun is so far up and illuminating the whole world that why would the light arbitrarily stop at any distance? It's not going. It might appear that it's going below the horizon on a flat, on a flat Earth, but there is no horizon on a flat Earth. That's just not even a thing. So on a flat Earth, when you look at a plane, you probably shouldn't watch it disappear over the horizon, because that wouldn't happen. On a globe, it does, because it's round and everything. But on a flat Earth, if something's above you and you're looking at it, it's always going to be above you. Parallel lines, by definition, do not intersect. So there is no point ever where that plane or the sun would come below the horizon. It's just not possible on a flat Earth, unless the sun has some magical properties and you think that magic is real.
No, I don't think magic's real.
So,
but
you explain
you could. I mean, it's. I'm like kind of shocked that we're even honestly talking this, like something that moves away from you after a certain distance. You're struggling with the fact that you would not be able to see it.
Well, I'm struggling with the fact that you don't understand that parallel lines never intersect.
Yeah, I mean, the resolution of stuff in the sky, even if it's just above us, and whatever's happening, I mean, that's not perfectly visible. Like, so I don't understand why you don't think that something that's above us and far away, you obviously think it's a lot farther than I do, but it's far away and it's moving further away from me or whoever's observing it. Of course it would,
but it would
not be visible after a while.
Yes, it would get a lot smaller, okay, but the sun would still never go behind the horizon, with it being 3,000 miles up, which is the common term that flat earthers give within the dome. It could just never go behind the horizon. It's just not possible for it to happen. And then we go back to the angular size of the sun, which is 0.52 degrees, I think. 0.52, 0.53 degrees. And that stays exactly the same all day. And on a flat Earth, it would have to, the sun would be moving away from you and coming towards you. And when you actually plug the numbers into the formula for angular perspective, which is A equals 2 arctan O times G over 2R, where A is the angular size of the object, G is the actual size of the object, and R is the distance to the object. Thank you, Red's Rhetoric. That shows you that you should always be able to see the sun on a flat Earth, and it also shows you that the sun would change by approximately, it would increase in size by about 4 times as it's coming towards you, and then decrease in angular size by about 4 times as it went away, which we don't observe. The sun stays exactly the same angular size throughout the entire day. So
wait, sorry, on that, what assumptions are you using, Craig? What size and what? Just out of curiosity, what size of the sun and distance and all that?
Size. I'm just talking about the angular size of the sun and the fact that it doesn't change. The angular size of the sun, which we can look at and know because we can look at it, is 0.52 degrees. And that does not change throughout the entire day, ever. It always stays at 0.52 or 0.53, I can't remember which one it is, but it stays exactly the same. And if the sun was moving away from you, if the sun was moving away from you and towards you on a flat Earth, the angular size would change by approximately a magnitude of 4.
Okay, wait, do you mind if I ask something about that? No, that's fine. Just to clarify, that angular size, that notion, Is that independent of any assumptions on a ball, or is that, how do you understand that? Sorry,
that's just the angular size of the moon that you can get by looking at it. Sorry, the angular size of the sun. You know that's the angular size of the moon because that's what it is. It stays the same at that angular size, 0.52 degrees. That's not something that is debatable. That is a fact that anybody can look and observe. And when you look at the sun moving through the sky at 15 degrees every hour, whatever it is, no matter what, the angular size of the sun stays exactly the same. It doesn't change. And if the sun was moving away from you and towards you, the angular size would change. This is an undisputable.
So sorry, I just wanted to add this. Angular size is a prime component in detecting parallax, and that's how you can actually find like objects that are very far away. That's how you can determine how far away they are. So he doesn't have any assumptions about how far away the sun is or how big the sun is. All he has to do is know the angular size of it and then plug it into a parallax equation. So, I mean, that's what he's explaining here. These are observations that you can make on Earth and apply it to this and, and detect these things. I don't know if this is going to help the conversation at all, but I thought I'd throw that in there.
No, that clarifies. That's what I wanted to know. Yep.
So,
that's cool.
Again, how is it possible on a flat Earth for the angular size of the sun, and not only the sun, but the moon, to not change? The only explanation for that is that it's so far away that the angular size isn't going to change. And honestly, if your answer is, I don't know, I'm probably going to laugh.
We can keep the debate lighthearted. So, I mean, I don't know for sure. So you can laugh.
I mean, maybe
I guess
after the debate, you need to
I'm wondering
about facts.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is where this debate it's an interesting thing because it's very personal. It honestly is. People approach things from different ways. I didn't write all that stuff just to like brag about how much I've been in school because I feel like I've been indoctrinated. But I put that because that's the way I think. I think a certain way, and obviously my channel, I think God thinks a certain way. But I think a certain way, and I will approach any uncertainty mathematically or whatever in my life in a certain way. And the 4 points that I put are the strongest for me right now. If they were totally useless and you thought about them already, I guess I apologize for that. But
for you,
I think those experiments and those observations, like, I'm not saying obviously don't pursue them because I think they're going to lead to the answer one way or the other. But you have to understand, like we or what I see in the flat Earth community, there's a lot of measurements and dimensions and coordinate systems, and positions of things, that are not known. We don't have the breadth, we don't have the funding because the government's stealing it from us. No, I'm just kidding. But we don't have all this. Like,
give me an example of something that isn't known.
Well, okay. So sorry to interrupt before Mind of God can answer. Hold on, we're gonna have to start winding down here in a second. So this will be the last small topic. So let's get one response from the Mind of God, and then we can kind of go into final statements or whatnot. And we'll start with Fight the Flat Earth with that. Okay.
Okay.
So
Thank you.
what do you want me to do? You want me to just ask another question?
Well, no, ask your question again because I know I interrupted you. I'm sorry. To Mind of God, and then Mind of God's going to respond to it, and then we're going to go into final statements.
All right. Well, like I said, my point all along is just that all the observations, all of them, every single one, matches exactly what we expect on a globe model. And not only does it match, it can be backed up with math and experiments that then back up everything that we're saying. There is nothing in reality that when you look at it that conforms to a flat Earth model. Nothing that you presented me tonight would even make me consider that the Earth could possibly be flat because you haven't given me any facts. And that's how I feel. And just with all of these observations, how can you still think the Earth is flat?
Well, just a point on the model thing. Just again, you're an engineer. You understand the way that these things work, right? When you build a model, you're going to feed it data points that are real. you know, things that you've observed, things that you understand, things that you whatever. So, you know, you'd have to be a complete idiot to build a model that does not reflect things that you have fed it, whatever those things are. So that it's a bit of a self-fulfilling thing. So I'm not saying that's useless. Like, I work in engineering, I understand models, like financial models, all that stuff. You know, I get it. You know, like they're important, but that's not like, I just be careful with like thinking that that's incredibly compelling, because it's a self-fulfilling thing. You're building a model based on things that you've seen and you're feeding it in, and that is your model. So I don't understand why you think that that's like groundbreaking.
Okay, if I could quickly respond to that, I'm not making any assumptions and I'm not feeding it data and everything. I am making observations that match the model that's been made. I haven't made that model. It's just any observation that I make. If I then went to look for a model that matched that, the only model I would find is the globe model. I would never find another model that matches every single observation, every single equation, every single formula. There's nothing else that matches all those things. So why would you assume that the globe model is an assumption in the first place? Because it's not. The globe model was based on our observations, and then the fact that it made sense, and the fact that even today, every single observation that's ever made matches what the globe model says it should. You know, there is never an observation made that doesn't match the globe model, ever. So that alone, that makes it a compelling argument for proof of the fact that Earth is a globe. And for you to kind of willfully ignore all these facts and observations, I kind of find it a bit strange for someone that is so intelligent.
Well,
so
I guess, I mean, I'm being cautious of what I use as evidence, just because I haven't developed it myself. Even though there is obviously flat Earth stuff, dialogue, videos, observations, proofs, etc., whatever you call them. I right now, I'm not citing that because it's not mine. It's not part of my foundational understanding. So I don't want to cling to it. I'm not discrediting it or saying it's not important, but for you to make a bold statement that there are absolutely no observations that call into question a ball Earth, to me is absolutely preposterous. Just look up in the sky. Look up in the sky.
Yeah, and everything we look up in the sky conforms to a ball Earth. As I've just explained with everything that we see matches our observations. You just saying look up in the sky. Yeah, everything in the sky matches. All right, sorry, John. Sorry.
Sorry. So, Mind of God, do you have a final statement that you want to make? And then we're going to head on into Super Chats.
Okay. The one technical thing I wanted to discuss about pressure dropping to 0, which we didn't get to go into, but something that I realize now, it looks like that in the ball Earth model, pressure does not ever go to 0. It goes to some small number. What's that?
Thermodynamic entropy. Are you talking about
the
fact that as it goes up?
But I just wanted to kind of point out that which is also something that I
would interrupt your.
No, that's fine. I just wanted to talk, like, maybe it's for a future debate, but that, to me, that's a great topic point is the pressure profile and how it changes radially on a ball Earth and that kind of thing. But, you know, I guess I apologize if this was a bit of a waste of time. I guess for me, I sort of see things in my own way, you know, with fields, you know, math, and this is the way I start. You know, I think you're more advanced with what's going on in the community with regards to, like, you know, experiments and observations. But, you know, I honestly think it was a good, you know, sort of blend. You know, I'm learning, you know, as I go on this journey. I think for me, this orthogonality and some of these kind of things is what I lose sleep over right now.
Okay. Is there anything that I've said that would maybe help you think that the Earth is round? You know, honestly, is there anything that I've said
absolutely
that would
not?
No. Maybe.
No, because, and to be fair to you, I've heard it already, and you've probably heard some of the stuff, maybe all of what I've said. So
honestly, I haven't heard what you've said before. So
anyway. I've been following this for the last like 4 years. So
okay, good. So we're gonna have to go into super chats now. I would like to thank Fight the Flat Earth as well as the Mind of God for having this discussion tonight. I do believe I saw some talk about an after show that's going to be going on, I think, here on the Non-Sec channel. The guys down there can correct me or whatnot. But I know Steve's going to be going through the super chats. We've only got about 15 minutes left really in the show. So any comments or whatnot have to be quick and short. So keep that in mind.
Okay. By the way, guys, we will be having an after show. It'll be right after this. Obviously, both you guys are invited. That's where things usually get fun. So I hope you both will join us. Reds is actually going to be with us. So Mind of God, I hope you'll come over and hang. You as well. Fight the Flat Earth, as always. All of you are invited to join us. So. Excuse me. All right. Steve's actually setting up for that after show right now, so I'm going to read through the super chats, like GE said, just to keep your responses quick, and because we've got quite a few to get to. Okay. Justin James Human says, "My NASA shield money to you guys. I love you, Lyle and Steve. We love you too. We love you too." Dan Palladino for $1.99. Please no front of the house tonight. Oh, I mean, flat out hero. Okay. No more of him. That was a one-time thing. Fight the Flat Earth. You had a run-in with him, didn't you?
Yeah, I don't want to call it debate because it was pretty much a shouting match with an idiot. But my God.
Yeah. That's about all you can say there. Okay. Ghostly Enigma says, "So where do you want the dumpster and the napalm for the dumpster fire? $5. That wasn't really much of a dumpster fire there. That was a pretty respectful back and forth, I think." Carlos Pagan, thank you. Didn't have a comment. I hope that's correct, Carlos. If you're in the live chat still and you meant to put something there, please let me know. Tag me in it so I can see it. Carolina Clark for $5 says, Flat Earths are created by stupid gods. These gods don't understand gravity or vanishing points." And then there's a little bit of a direct question for you, Mind of God. This is from Jamie Sislow. It says, in a SEPIC circuit, do you reduce the ESR of the main electric capacitor to increase the switching time of the Schottky diode, or reduce the ripple voltage across the diode, and why would you want to?
Wow,
it's a tongue twister.
Jeez, my dad used to ask me like basic like electrician questions in undergrad, and I was like, "Why are you asking me that? Like, I'm studying electrical engineering." So I have no idea. I mean, if you understood what our curriculum was, which might be worth another show, it's not that. Like, it's not that. Like, I think the credit to that person for knowing that. For us, it's a lot of computer science, calculus, algebra, geometry. We do circuits, not designing them like that. You know, it's like understanding like how to calculate impedance and impedance match and some of that kind of stuff. But that's okay. Even if we did learn that, I might have forgot. But
okay. Dan again. Thank you, Dan. He says, "Smile GE." That was for you. Ronnie D 1970 says, the more educated the flat earther, the weaker the argument. That was kind of a compliment and a backhanded one at the same time.
That's fair.
Sigfredo Sarabia says, "Why are places like Bonneville, Salt Lakes, Florida, USA, Cloncurry, Australia, or the Dali Desert considered flat for miles regardless of gravity? Where are the 8 inches per mile squared of curvature?"
Everywhere?
I'm not sure that's exactly, but
yeah, but land has contours, so
Okay. Mike the Globetard. Somebody get GE a goddamn beer. I think he had one. Didn't you, GE?
I had two. I've got two empty ones right next to me. So
Sweet. This is Fredo back again. Did Einstein say gravity is a force or the bending of space-time? Who here is
question.
wrong? What
That's a
can't
good question.
gravity do? Go Rams.
It's both.
You want to answer that, Steve? Steve, are you there? You're muted.
I think he's muted.
I can tell it's already a perfect explanation.
Try now. Try now.
There you go.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
now go.
Okay. In Newtonian physics, it is a force. In relativity, it is a pseudo force. So it's not an actual force in relativity. It's because of the curvature of space-time. They call it a pseudo force.
I think I tried to explain that with the sheet explanation.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. Philip Weinberg says, to the flat Earth side, what is a vector field and how do you relate the vector field to the force on an object applied by the field?
That's actually, in many ways, what I was going to kind of get to. I understand it as a vector field because it kind of has to be. How is the force? I actually want to know, is it pulling it from the bottom or is it pushing it from the top? How is gravity interacting with an object? Because that's the phenomenon that we could start playing with. We could have fun with it. We can start seeing how it does these things and all that. Like, can someone answer that?
Attracting mass.
That makes
Right.
He did explain it.
I understand that, but this vector field, which is the thing that we would use to model these.
Can I ask why you're using a vector field? Out of curiosity. A vector field is a three-dimensional representation of vectors, right? But a tensor field is actually what gravity would actually be, because you're dealing with a point of reference from each specific point. So a field is always a vector quantity, and a vector always has a magnitude and direction. You're looking at a vector, and you're saying the vector has this amount of direction, right? And it has this amount of magnitude. So if I say I'm going 50 miles due west, I'm having a vector because I'm telling you what direction to go and how far to go. The distance is the magnitude, and the direction is the angle. Matter of fact, you talked about the amplitude of the vector. Amplitude of a vector just means the angle of a vector for a unit circle. And I think what's happening is you're conflating digital signal processing and frequency to what he's talking about, which is a different terminology for orthogonal. Orthogonal just means perpendicular to something else. You're talking about 90 degrees out of phase when you have a frequency and you have a phase shift. That's 90 degrees out of phase. Like a cosine would be 90 degrees out of phase from sine wave, right? Well, it is exactly what you were talking about. I mean, you're talking about orthogonal frequency.
Orthogonal is not necessarily
orthogonal frequency division multiplexing, right?
But it's not necessarily 90 degrees. That's one example of orthogonal. Okay. Like
orthogonal is always 90 degrees.
We do need to get to the rest of the super chats though before 10 or 10 my time.
That's fine.
Top of the hour.
Yeah. Okay. Sisfredo says again, why is that video measured with straight line? I'm not sure which video he's referring to there. Sisfredo again says, no matter where on a globe, which way is up? Again, go Rams. He is a huge Rams fan. Gavin 619, if there was a dome, smoke, smog, etc., would dirty it up. That's a good point. To Philip Weinberg, to flat Earth side, define what you mean by orthogonal. From my understanding, orthogonal means perpendicular in the geometric sense.
Yeah, and that's true. It's honestly, Steve, something you mentioned in the last talk was amazing about entropy, because you talked about entropy as the minimum amount of information to characterize a system, which is I agree with, because that's exactly the way we understand it in information theory, in electrical engineering. But you could also have a chemist who will talk about entropy, and that being things related to like second law of thermodynamics and all those different things that they use entropy for. But orthogonality, I'm not disagreeing with what Steve was saying about cosines and sines being out of phase, because that's what the sync pulse is doing. But orthogonal fundamentally is just either you could do time sharing, like if you put a signal in for a certain time, let it go, and then put another one, that's multiplexing in time, and those signals are orthogonal in time, right? And then the example I used in my presentation was like, sorry, one last point is like, even if you have like a plane flying over us and cars beneath us, that plane is orthogonal to the cars because it's only occupying along the z-axis, and the cars are along the x and y. So I agree with that definition of 90 degrees, that is one example of orthogonality, but 90 degrees is also not general enough because it could apply to like subspaces and n-dimensional space and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, 10 seconds. This is a quick response. I agree with you, but you're talking about signal processing, and you're talking about things like Fourier transformations, where you're shifting from a frequency domain to a time domain, that kind of stuff. And this is not what he's talking about, because gravity has nothing to do with any of that, right? If you're talking about this multiplexing, where you have a carrier frequency and you have a certain amount of bandwidth, and you just wanted to get more information in that barrel bandwidth by basically changing the modulation rate of subcarriers, that's fine.
Yeah.
That's exactly what you're talking about. I had books on digital processing, so I do kind of conceptualize what you're saying, but that's not what he's talking about with gravity. So you're talking past each other with terminology, is what you're doing.
Yep,
No, I get that. It was
hold on,
yeah,
hold on
it was
one
a
second.
good time to wrap my head around.
Yeah, we got to keep moving. I'm sorry. We can dive into this in the after show, but I've got to finish this out by 10. Godless Iwan says Peter Pan saves hair and lives. That is correct. Team Gas said pay $10 to say fuck you guys and go flat Earth. So fuck you guys, go flat Earth. Thank you for that. How does the flat Earth explain what he saw? From Brian Stevens. We're going to go into that deeper into the next go round. By the way, Mind of God, your hero Russian vids is actually going to be joining us as well.
RV, shout out to him, man.
Yeah, he'll be there in the after show. Steen says that this discussion is stupid. I'm bored. On the other news, we adopted our 4th child today, 5-month-old boy, and are pretty excited. If you just adopted you're a child today, what are you doing watching us anyways? You should be playing with your new kid. Come on, Steven.
Maybe he needs a break from it. Yeah.
Maybe. Brain Area says, I'm going to sing the Poe song now. Popo, 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 popo. I don't know what tune you wanted that in or what I was supposed to do that to, so I just spat it out. 0132132. This dude pointed out an inconsistency in his own model and presented it as evidence for that model. A bold debate tactic, if nothing else. Annabelle P says confirmation that even a man with an accounting degree can be scientifically ignorant and have zero common sense. Oh, Team Gas again says another $10 to say fuck the agents and anyone intentionally propagating fake space and fake all Earth. Yeah, fuck them. No one wants to propagate fake space. We want to propagate real space. So that was good, Team Guest. This was Phonic Talk said this was boring. I noticed Kyle pick his nose. I did not pick my. How awful of you to say that. That's lies. Since Fredo says if pictures show Earth, why does Tyson say it's despair? Okay, we can go into that too.
That's a good
Laura says, how does the flat Earth explain the southern celestial pole? Yes.
Well, no, I was just going to quickly say that Neil deGrasse Tyson says that the Earth is more pear-shaped because it is wider on the bottom than it is on the top. I disagree with characterizing it as a pear-shape because of how people have taken that, ran with it, and have really just convoluted the conversation about the shape of the Earth. I mean, technically, it's an oblate spheroid, and there's multiple images you can look up as to how it's shaped. So, I mean, hanging on to that is a little disingenuous.
Yeah, and every object is kind of out around. Every oblate spheroid that we know of is an irregular oblate spheroid for the most part. So I agree with him. I don't think calling it pear shape was really doing anything. But
if you listen to Neil deGrasse Tyson's entire speech where he says that, he goes on to say it is more or less a perfect sphere. It is more spherical than a billiard ball. So get over yourself.
Yeah, if you were to shrink the Earth down. Yeah, if you were to shrink the Earth down to like a basketball, it would be smooth as glass. It'd be smooth. All right,
the last ones. Order says, how does the flat Earth explain the southern celestial pole? We'll jump into that on the next one as well.
I think I know who that
says
is.
Flat Earth was the default assumption, not the globe. Houseoy says, I missed this, but assuming it went the way it usually does, it would be refreshing to get modus ponens argument for once. And then the fuck boys assassin. Is that what that is? FUCCBO IASSA.
Yes.
Fuckboys Assassin. Wow, that is creative. Okay. MOG, what measurement don't we yet have? Mind of God, what measurement don't we yet have?
I mean, me personally, I don't know. Like, man, I'm excited for the next year or two or whatever. So, I mean, I don't think we have many.
Okay.
Like, yeah.
Well, thank you guys for coming on and doing this. It was great. GE, as always, pleasure to see you. Are you joining us, GE, for the after party?
You're muted.
Can't hear you, buddy.
Oh, sorry.
Come back to us.
I've got to put my son to bed, but then I
Okay.
can join for just minutes.
Cool. Well, we will regroup here and be back in about 15 minutes. I need a toke break, and but I have these on ready to go for the after show. So Russian Vids will be there, Reds will be there, maybe Mr. Intelligent Design. Edgar, I want to talk about Aaron. Okay, maybe I can broker this deal for you. Okay, but you got to come talk to me in the after show. So let's all take a 15-minute break, and we'll see you for the fun in round 2 of tonight. Oh, look, it's Dale, Steve, on your screen.
Yeah,
Hi,
I
Dale.
know.
Hi, Dale.
I mentioned somebody in the live chat. I was like, I love that gift. That is like the
We
best.
miss you, Dale.
Great
Come back to
time.
us. You fucking
Hey,
noob.
Dell. Fucking noob.
I
But
wanted
yeah,
to
we'll
bait
see
Dell.
you.
Please get Dell for me.
Good
Oh,
God.
wait,
Why?
look, it won't be back on
You're
here.
making it happen.
You're an incompetent, delusional moron.
Your brain cells,
15
man.
minutes.
Kill them as you wish.
All right. Yeah, I'm gonna give you the link, Russian Vids. Just hang on.
Non sequitur. Your facts are uncoordinated.